Hello friends, and welcome to SteveOmotoS. Hello. Today I wanted to talk about some of the motos that I have. First up, the 21 KTM890 Adventure. 500 pounds, almost 100 horsepower. Got a couple mods done to this thing. Got the 20 YZ250 stock. I think I've got a heavy flywheel in there to slow things down. Stock suspension, stock pipe. I think I got a shorty silencer on there. 250 pound bike, around 50 some horsepower. We've got the new, I think this is pushing 6 kilowatts, peaks at 12 kilowatts, 2024 E-Ride Pro SS. And really what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is the different bikes and the different things I've experienced with them. The ease of use of, I'm going to upset some people here, but electric. I mean, let's face it, electric is so much easier than gas as far as maintenance and things like that. So let's talk a little bit about these bikes. First of all, the KTM 890 Adventure. Phenomenal motorcycle. This is the bike that I just recently crashed on. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, that's for sure. Each of these bikes, I said 500 pounds, 250 pounds, 120 pounds. That's the big difference here is the weight and the energy behind a crash. You're not gonna hurt yourself nearly as much on a 120 pound bike as you are a 500 pound bike. I mean, it's just, that's the facts, it's physics, it's more energy. So my most recent crash on this guy, and I crash all the time. I love motorcycles, I'm just not that good at riding them. But I wanted to talk to you guys about the 890, the crash that I had there. I'm not blaming technology or anything, but basically it was super slick out. I was probably going about 30 miles an hour and I gave it a little bit too much juice on this thing, which is really easy to do at 100 horsepower when it's icy out. So hit the throttle, the bike skated out immediately, and then I think what happened is I had the setting, the traction control setting on off-road 3, and I think what happened as soon as the bike spun sideways, that it activated the traction control, and then it stopped the back wheel, and then all that energy, and it high-sided me. I mean, I would have high-sided anyways, I would have crashed anyways. I'm not saying that the technology made me crash, but I think it did make me crash harder, because in that momentum, usually your wheel keeps going, keeps spinning and pushes that energy, but the back wheel locked up and just slammed me down with that energy. So my shoulder's pretty jacked up, 3 screws in it, and it's not going well because I couldn't stay off of the E-Ride Pro SS, and that's kind of why I'm making this video. That is the most fun I've ever had on 2 wheels. I mean, it sounds silly. I've been riding motorcycles since I was 5 years old. The feeling you get on this thing, the connection with a throttle and the back wheel, instant torque, instant wheelies, everything else you've got to set up for a wheelie on. The 890 definitely got to set up for a wheelie on. The YZ250, it pretty much wheelies on its own and pretty much on tap, but still nothing like the connected feel of the e-bike. You're just going from, it's like going from 2-stroke to 4-stroke. You're going almost 4-stroke to somewhere where we've never been with this electric stuff. Love it or hate it, you know, in the next 5 years, moto-wise, if you're not on an electric bike, I don't think you're going to be able to be competitive. I think there's going to be some other technologies coming out there, hydrogen. I think you're going to see the Japanese manufacturers come out with some hydrogen stuff and things like that. But at the end of the day, electric's here now, and it's getting better and better and better, and that's the E-Ride Pro SS. I mean, 60 miles an hour, good half days of riding in on it. You can do it quietly, you don't bother anyone. I've been on trails, you know, with people with kids, and I just, you know, sneak by super quiet. And then I've been, you know, drag racing cars on the road to 60 miles an hour, which, you know, there's not a lot of cars that can beat that thing to to 40 for sure. I think it's as fast as my YZ250 to 40 miles an hour, at least 35. Can't keep the front end down on that thing. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the differences between these motorcycles and why I chose to ride them. Now, starting with the YZ250, okay? I've been riding and racing dirt bikes since I was 5 years old, and the big decision of me going from, I've been on 2-strokes, then 4-strokes, and now I'm back to 2-strokes, and the big decision on this was just cost of ownership. The YZ250 is such an inexpensive bike to own. Prior to this, I had the KTM890, pretty inexpensive bike to own as well, but that bike has to be running perfect. For a guy like me that's, pushing 180 pounds, I really had to be wringing that thing's neck. I'm not the fastest guy in the world, vet intermediate-ish rider. I do all the jumps at the track. The YZ250 just offered less maintenance than the 4-stroke, just easier maintenance. The motor's so easy to change on these things. $300 for a top end. The KTM890 I had before this was a great bike, but it just, 8 top ends, and it had to be running perfect for me all the time, whereas this thing can have a bad day and it's still got plenty of power for me. Not to say that the 150 didn't either, but you get lazy in a corner and it's just so much more work. This is half as much shifting, and even with a 4-stroke, even less shifting than the 2-strokes. So main reason, I can definitely go faster on a 4-stroke, there's no question there, but the main reason going back to the 2-strokes was just money. And why I went for the 150 prior to this was just the fun factor. You're not going to have any more fun on a motorized or engine, whatever you call it, gas burning we'll call it. You're not going to have any more fun on a gas burning bike than a KTM 125, 150, anything like that, YZ 125. They're just a ton of fun to ride if you know how to ride them. That being said, the 250 was just less maintenance. It was easier for me. Didn't have to run perfect all the time. Didn't necessarily have to run race gas and do the head and all that stuff. Of course I did do that, but that's just me. But this bike runs clean. It's easy. I mean, these YZ250s are proven. I'll never sell that one. That's just going to be my motorbike. I don't feel the need to go spend $14,000 on a new 450 or anything like that. I'm a 254 stroke guy anyways. But yeah, this 252 stroke does everything I want it to do. Easy to maintain, and I love it for the track. I don't do a whole lot of trail riding with it because the suspension's more track suspension, and it's a track bike. And when you try to take these things off-road, I mean, you can do it, but it's just not as fun as riding something like that's set it for them, like a Beta or something like that. So great bike, great value for your money. You're not going to go wrong with a YZ250. Now, coming on to the 890, I bought a couple KLR 650s. Got me hooked, got my dad and my brother out. After riding those things and just the ability to not even have to load up your bike and just ride your bike from the house and just rip on trails, and this thing is almost, it feels like a giant 450. I mean, I can hit all the intermediate stuff at Stony Ford on it. It definitely does get taxing. It gets heavy. After you pick this thing up 10 times in a day, your boots are smoked. You're done. 500-pound bike. This thing is phenomenal. I mean, the suspension's great on it. I can jump it. I've taken it to the motocross track. You can see that video and on my other channel. Great bike. I mean, fabulous bike. The suspension's great. The motor's unreal. Speed shifting with this thing, just hold it open and just go through the gears. All the gas in the world that you need. I rip from here, which I live near kind of Sacramento, about an hour north of Sacramento. You can go from here all the way to the coast on pretty much almost all dirt roads. It's amazing. So this thing, to go see California, explore California, you can throw the lady on the back, you can pack it full of luggage. It's great. The only problem is you get down in tight situations and you can get yourself in a lot of trouble because it is a heavy bike. You come across a down log. If you're by yourself, I try not to ride by myself, but it definitely happens. All those things start to come into play with this, and then you're out in the middle of nowhere. It's a 500-pound bike. You can easily fall over on this thing, break a leg, break an ankle. So much weight and so much energy. So you really have to be careful with this thing. But as long as you're on logging roads and things like that, dudes that are doing that, I'll do that stuff all day long by myself. But I've had this thing on some tight, gnarly single track. It's definitely capable. It's just as capable as anything, and if you're capable, it's capable. Watch Chris Birch ride the thing. It's a great bike. I love it. I'm having a ton of fun on it. Something that both of these bikes share is just work to go take them out, to maintain them. This thing eats tires. Yeah, you don't have to load it up, but sometimes you want to load it up because yeah, you don't want to eat the tire. The tires are really expensive, about $350, $400 by the time you put a rear tire on this thing and have someone put it on for you, because they're pretty gnarly to put on by yourself. It's just bigger, more money, air filter, the oil, all that stuff's got to be changed on a regular basis. Not a whole lot of maintenance with this thing. Clean it, and you know, you clean it, and it's an expensive machine. Clean it, and so great bike, but a little bit more work. This thing here, the YZ250, you gotta load it up, you gotta, you know, wash it all the time, you gotta always check the nuts and bolts on it, you always gotta maintain this thing. Dirt bikes are more to maintain than, say, this thing. This thing needs a air filter change every ride. I could probably go a ride or two on this one, depending. This oil change every other ride. This oil change every, they say 9,000, I do it every 5,000, but so oil change intervals are gonna be a lot different. You know, I take this to the track, it's an all-day thing. It's an all-day thing to take it to a track, it's an all-day thing to get it ready for next time. But a ton of fun, 250 pounds, you know, I can take this virtually anywhere and pick it up and move it around. You do get on some gnarly hills by yourself, you would have some trouble with a 250 pound bike by yourself. Two people can pretty much carry these things anywhere, but for this thing, even two people is a little too much sometimes. You need 3-4 people to move this 500 pound beast once you get on the wrong side of the trail or the downside of the trail. As soon as you get on the downside of the trail on this thing, you're hosed. This thing by yourself, you can still move it around. Definitely with two people, you could do whatever you want. A couple hours of ride time, I imagine, on a tank of gas. I would argue that you have just as much or more time to ride on this than that on a full tank of gas. I mean, it would be really close on the two. I mean, I'm sure they'd probably each do 50 miles of riding. Maybe this one might do a little bit more, but at the end of the day, they're pretty comparable now. This electric stuff's really come a long ways. You know, this I've got to change top end every 50, 60 hours. That valves every 20 hours, and those are expensive things. This is a brushless motor. If you're familiar with RC cars, that makes a big difference. You don't have to maintain a brushless motor. Maintain the battery by keeping it at a certain charge. There's really no reason to even wash this thing, because you're probably going to ruin it by washing it. So other than keeping the chain clean and brakes and maybe the suspension clean, there's really no reason I see to wash it. No air filter, no top end to replace, nothing to wash. Performance is better than both of these bikes as far as instant torque, and the fun factor from 0 to 35 definitely beats all of these, no question. And if you're out riding by yourself and you're down the side of a hill, you can, with the torque this thing has and how easy it is to ride, you can be down the side of a hill and push it out and use the torque of the motor to get you out. You can ride this thing with your dogs. There's no starting it. There's no kick starting. Even if this thing had an electric start, a TTR 125 that has an electric start, and it's just nowhere near as convenient as this bicycle. I can throw the wife on this thing. This thing is faster than a TTR, probably outperforms a TTR 125, and there's no starting, no kicking, no oil. You know, with her bike, I'm dealing with a leaky shaft seal. The carburetor's clogged all the time because she doesn't ride it enough. This thing she can get on. The brakes are right there for her, no shifting. She can ride it right away. Not a whole lot of drama in teaching the wife to ride one of these. And that's the next thing, is not all these kids have dads or moto moms, and this is a big step to go up to dirt bike things for kids. So I really think that this is going to be a gateway for kids to get into things like that, because there's just not as much to them. The controller, there's a battery, there's a brushless motor, chain and sprocket, suspension, brakes, that's it. There's not valves, there's not piston. So a big difference as far as maintaining these between the three bicycles, and the gateway to entry for the kids is just going to be so much easier. The moms doesn't have to take it to the track. Sure, you could take these things to a track, and I think there should be tracks out there. It's going to be easier with no noise, but mom can load this thing up. You don't have to have a big truck to load a 120 pound bike. You can easily do a hitch carrier with something like that. The kid can ride it around the front of the house without getting hammered on, most likely, depending on where you live. I know here in Sutter, kid could ride these all day long and no one would say anything. Whereas the dirt bikes, they might get a little noisy and someone might actually say something eventually. The ability for the kids to have access to riding areas so much easier. Kid doesn't have to only ride once a month. He can ride every day, every other day. It's going to keep him out of trouble more, rather than having to wait once a month, because let's face it, going to the track's expensive. It's expensive to get up. It's a lot to get up. It's a lot of work to go do. I really think these e-bikes are the future. Performance-wise, just speaking straight out of performance, no question in my mind that this bike outperforms both of those motorcycles. The e-revolution is here, and I'm gonna moto through all of it. No, I'm not gonna sell my gas bike. No, I'm not worried about the environment. I mean, whatever happens with the environment, when I see these billionaires stop flying around in their billion-dollar planes and things like that, then I'll worry about that. As far as right now, I'm not too worried about the environment or the impact that it has as far as motorcycles and e-bikes are concerned. It's not a high priority on my list. What is the access to fun. We're working so much these days. I just want to come home and be able to enjoy my life a little bit. I think that's what these e-bikes are going to offer. After a long day of work, you don't have to rush and load up and run to the track. You can just grab your e-bike, run out the door, and have the same feeling, if not better. The torque on these things is just amazing. That thing climbs better than any bike I've ever ridden. It's completely connected to the throttle. So get out there, try an e-bike, try all of these bikes. I recommend every single one of them. It's not like I'm saying, oh, you know, this one's better than that one, this one's better than that one. I mean, to an extent I am saying that the e-bikes are the best, but at the same time, you're not going to go take an e-bike and do the same thing you're going to do with an 890. So I feel I have some of the best motorcycles or motos available here with me, and I ride them all and I enjoy them all. I will be out 6 months, it looks like, for the shoulder. It's just not healing proper, so that's very unfortunate. So I think what's going to happen is I'm going to sell the E-Ride Pro because I can't stay off of it. I just keep getting on it, I keep doing wheelies, I keep riding it. I'm messing up my shoulder riding it. I think I'm gonna sell that. I know that there's talking about a new Super SS E-Ride Pro. So that's supposed to be coming out. I think they're talking 16 kilowatts on that one. While this is enough for me, that would be even, you know, better. More would always be nicer. This thing starts wheelies at 20 miles an hour, just flick of the wrist, and the thing stands straight up, and it climbs to 60 pretty quick. But I would like a little bit more. I'd like to have roll-ons at 40. Right now it's roll-ons at 20 easy, but roll-ons at 40 would be nice. Most of the trail stuff I did a lot of it on Eco, unless I really wanted to shred a corner. Eco was fast enough and fun enough, so you could go for days on that. The bicycle, especially if you're riding it off-road, plenty of power. I don't think you need to change anything. I'm crazy. I wouldn't mind a little bit more power, especially for the streets and the wheelies, but as far as off-road, I don't think you need any more than that. Thing totally rips. I've been loving taking it, sneaking it on mountain bike trails, and just the ability to ride it at night and quiet. There's just nothing like it. So, you know, if I had to only choose one bike here, and after riding motos my entire life with motors, and I love the sound of a YZ250, but after all of that, I would still go the e-bike, man. You can snipe trails, you can have fun with your buddies. When you're riding, I rode with my brother the other day, and it's just, you can talk to each other while you're riding. There's no stopping, starting. It's just so much easier to ride in a crowd, and so much more fun to ride in a crowd on an e-bike with no noise. So love my two-stroke, love the two-stroke sound, but in today's day and age where we have all these Karens, the e-bikes are the way to go, guys. There's no noise, and by the time you're in and out of somewhere, no one's gonna say anything. It's not like they can, you know, try to hear where you're at. So I highly recommend you look into one, and we'll talk to you next time. Please like and subscribe. It definitely helps the channel, and I really appreciate you guys watching SteveOmotoS. Let's go see what this 890 sounds like. So this has a stock muffler, decat, computer, rapid bike is what it's called. So a modded computer, and we have the Rottweiler air raid intake on this, and that's all tuned. So she goes pretty good. We also got the adventure pegs. The way that this bike sits with the stock pegs, there's not a lot of room to grip the bike, so adventure pegs are a must on this thing. The other thing is the lights suck, so added the fog lights. She's nasty. I'm gonna sell that e-bike today, I think.
Why?
I gotta stay off of it. I can't stay off of it, so I gotta get rid of it. But I'll buy another one for sure. All right, and here we have the old YZ250. go ahead and start up the E-Ride Pro SS. Did you hear it? Did you hear it? That was it. Yeah, so that's it. And the thing just, I mean, just rips. So you see how I have to stay off of it because I can't stay off of it. Yeah, that being said, definitely get you one of these things. They're awesome. I highly recommend them. Again, I love all my motorcycles. I am hooked on this electric stuff. So see you next time, friends. Follow us for riding, coaching, tips, gear, and tours. Hey guys, it's Steve-O. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more moto.